and then I will ask you a few questions. Jane Goodall. Jane Goodall was born in 1934 in London, England. When she was 2 years old, her father gave her a toy chimpanzee named Jubilee. It was her favorite toy. In fact, she still has Jubilee at her home in England. She also loved to play with animals and read stories. Her favorite stories were about Africa. Her childhood dream was to go there. Jane went to secretarial school and then she worked for a film company. A friend invited her to Kenya, so she worked as a waitress and saved enough money for the boat trip to Kenya. She was 23 years old. In Kenya, she met the famous anthropologist, Louis Leakey. Goodall knew so much about Africa that Leakey hired her as his assistant. She traveled with him and his wife, Mary, to search for evidence of prehistoric man. Leakey and Goodall wanted to study chimpanzees because they were very similar to humans. Goodall did not have a university degree, but Leakey thought she was the ideal person to study chimpanzees. At first, the government did not approve of Goodall's work. It was unusual for a woman to live in the wild country alone. Her mother decided to go with her, so the government finally agreed. In July 1960, Goodall began to study the chimpanzees. It wasn't easy at first. Every morning, she went to the same place. After about 6 months, the chimps came near her. She gave each one a name, like a person. Goodall was the first scientist to do this. She thought that each chimpanzee had its own personality, just like people. One day, she noticed that the chimpanzees used tools to get their food. Scientists always thought only people knew how to use tools. She also discovered that chimps eat meat as well as fruit and plants. Goodall was married twice. She also had a son. Her first husband was a photographer, and her second husband was the director of national parks. Both men shared Goodall's love of Africa and animals. Goodall studied chimpanzees for over 40 years. She changed the way scientists study animals. Today, she travels the world and talks about the importance of chimpanzees. Oh, very good. Did you understand the story? Did you like the story? Let me ask you a few questions about the reading. Number 1, multiple choice. Tell me, is the answer A, B, or C? Number 1, as a child, Goodall A wanted to go to Africa. B had bad dreams. C did not like animals. Number 1, as a child, Goodall A wanted to go to Africa. B had bad dreams. C did not like animals. Yes, number one, the answer is A. As a child, Goodall, A, wanted to go to Africa. Number two, in Kenya, Goodall, A, studied Leakey. B, worked for Leakey. C, worked for a university degree. In Kenya, Goodall, A, studied Leakey. B, worked for Leakey. C, worked for a university degree. Number two, in Kenya, Goodall, B, worked for Leakey. Remember, the name of the anthropologist was Leakey. Okay, number three. Goodall found that chimpanzees, A, do not eat meat, B, eat meat, C, do not use tools to get food. Number three. Goodall found that chimpanzees, A, do not eat meat, B, eat meat, C, do not use tools to get food. Number three, the answer is B. Goodall found that chimpanzees eat meat, at least sometimes. All right, very good. Those were multiple choice questions. Pretty simple. Now let's see if you can remember some details just from listening to the reading. Number one, where was Goodall born? Where was Goodall born? A complete sentence. Jane Goodall was born in London, England. Number two, how did Goodall get to Kenya? How did Goodall get to Kenya? Do you remember? She got to Kenya by boat, right? She took a boat trip to Kenya. How old was Goodall when she went to Kenya? How old was Goodall when she went to Kenya? Yes, she was 23 years old. Goodall was 23 years old. Who did Goodall meet in Kenya? Who did Goodall meet in Kenya? She met the famous anthropologist, Louis Leakey. She met Louis Leakey in Kenya. When did Goodall start to study chimpanzees? When did Goodall start to study chimpanzees? According to the reading, in July 1960, Goodall began to study the chimpanzees. She started to study chimpanzees in 1960. Okay, last question. How long did Goodall study chimpanzees? How long did Goodall study chimpanzees? Do you remember? She studied chimpanzees for 40 years. She studied chimpanzees for 40 years.